back in the main hallway, atrium, whatever you want to call it. We've got a few keys. We've got the Jupiter key, the Earth key, and the Saturn key that we're going to maybe utilize for some of these non-numbered doors, while Ace, Seven, and Clover have gone through door 3 on the off chance that Snake is in there. I do feel like if Snake would have died via his, his bomb exploding, then we would have heard it, right? So yeah. Well, what else are we going to do, mate?
What do you mean?
Well, we already searched every inch of this room, didn't we?
Yeah, but we've got doors to unlock now, you absolute plank.
I'm asking you if there's any reason we came back here.
Of
course there's a reason. Man, sometimes I can't tell if you're smart or just lucky.
Huh?
This.
Junpei pulled 2 things out of his pockets.
The Saturn key card.
Oh, right. I thought we needed the keys.
And the Earth key?
Oh, right, yeah.
I'm lost.
Santa cocked his head to one side like an inquisitive bird and looked at them. After several long moments, during which it became apparent that Santa had no idea what the cards meant, June took pity on him.
Don't you remember, Santa? On C deck, where we are now, there was a big elevator behind the stairs, remember? And next to the elevator, there was a card reader with the Saturn symbol on it. And on A deck, on the door to the left, there was a keyhole with the Earth symbol on it, I think.
Should I be writing this down? I don't think so. A deck for the Earth symbol, elevator for Saturn.
So the 2 keys that Jumpy has?
Should let us use the elevator and the door on A deck.
Didn't we have a third key?
Yes, that's right.
June smiled, pleased with herself. So did Santa.
All right, I got it. Let's get started then. What do you say we split into 2 teams? Lotus and I will search the Earth one, so you 2 can search Saturn, all right?
I'd rather just search both myself and not trust you 2 to do anything.
Sounds good. Then you guys should take this key.
Junpei handed the Earth key to Santa. This is a terrible idea. See, look what happened last time we split up that wasn't for a numbered door, right? Snake went missing. Chances are that Lotus is some Egyptian vampire who had to suck the life essence out of Snake to keep herself alive. You're next, Santa. You are next. They decided that their initial search should be brief.
We have no idea what's on the other side of these. So don't go too far. Just search for 10 minutes and come back.
Plan decided, the 2 teams split it up. Junpei and June headed for the elevators.
There's a card reader next to the left elevator.
Then let's try out the Saturn key card.
A light on the upper left corner blinked to life.
Great! It looks like it's working now.
All right, now how do I call the elevator?
There was a single button to the right of the elevator door.
Oh, it only has the upside-down triangle on it.
I guess there's no up button. Well, we may as well try pushing this one.
The door slid shut and they heard the grinding of the motor as the elevator car moved down. How ominous.
It opened! Look, Jumpy!
It would really do my head in if someone kept calling me like a juvenile variation of my name. Well, I don't know. Would it? I don't know, it kind of makes you feel like a pet, you know? Doesn't make you...
Sweet! It opened! Let's get going.
Sorry, June's voice was excited, but Junpei could hear a tinge of anxiety. He grinned at June and stepped towards the open door. As he was about to set foot in it, he felt a hand on his arm.
Wait!
What? Let's just go.
What?
I'm not really, I just, oh gosh.
Right, you stay behind then. Junpei was at something of a loss. What could she possibly be so frightened of? June was probably afraid of being locked up alone with a boy. They could only go down. She was afraid because the only elevator button pointed down. That meant, of course, that the elevator couldn't go any higher than the floor they were on. As he thought about it, Junpei realized he hadn't seen the elevators on A or B decks near the central staircase. All of which meant that the elevator could only convey them to the lower decks, where it's flooded, I guess?
Come to think of it, the lower floor, D deck, is completely underwater. An elevator heading to a submerged floor. That is pretty scary. Hey, wait a minute. This elevator came up from somewhere under us, right?
Yeah, so it's not wet or anything, so...
Well, yes, I guess it did. It didn't open right away after you pressed the button.
And I mean, ships are generally designed to have certain chambers that can be locked off and watertight to stop the flooding spreading, right? So it's perfectly possible that the flooding is just strategic to keep us here.
There was a motor noise, like it was moving, and then it opened.
Isn't the other one available as well? It's got a green light on it, and there's no scanner card.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So, take a look inside.
Junpei jerked his head toward the interior of the elevator.
It's not wet at all, is it? The walls and even the floor are totally dry.
Oh, you're right. They are.
She looked around the elevator, slightly embarrassed.
Well, let's test it.
Tested.
Yeah, dunk it.
Yeah, watch this. Now, I'll just put one foot inside the elevator and look over at the buttons. Oh, there's only two, E and C. All right, I'll push E.
He pushed the E button and jumped out of the elevator. The door slid shut and they heard the grinding of the motor as the elevator car moved down.
I think I can hear it opening on E deck.
Okay, that's done. Now I'll just press the button again.
A few moments later, the elevator returned.
Yep, not a single drop of water to be seen. See?
Junpei couldn't resist puffing out his chest just a little bit. June, however, still looked confused.
What does that mean? How can E deck be safe if the D deck is full of water?
How could she know so much about the Titanic without knowing a little... I mean, I know nothing about ships, right? But I imagine that's how it works to stop the flooding spreading, particularly on a big ship.
Well, here's what I think. The elevator shaft and E deck must be watertight and separated from wherever the ship's been punctured.
Yeah.
Here, let me show you.
He pulled out his notebook, a pen, and sketched out a rough illustration. Christ.
I see. So is that why the ship hasn't sunk? The shape of the inside keeps it all from filling with water?
Yeah, I think that's what's going on.
Junpei continued talking as he closed the notebook and slipped it back into his pocket.
So I'm gonna go down and check it out. You stay here, alright?
No.
But...
Come on, just do it, alright?
No, bring her with you. He gave June's shoulder a reassuring squeeze, then hopped in onto the elevator. Oh, dude, bring her with you. Don't leave her on her own. This is so stupid. He pushed the E button and the door began to close. June looked worried, her eyes darting back and forth as if she was trying to make a decision when suddenly... Yeah, come on in.
I'm coming with you.
Yes, come in.
Huh?
At the last possible moment, June dashed forward, turning sideways just in time to slip through the gap between the closing doors.
Hey, wait!
No. Junpei jammed his finger against the open button, but it was too late.
crap! It closed!
The door had shut, he and June were in the elevator, and it was headed down to E-Deck. He was so surprised by June that he didn't even have time to think about what awaited him on the E-Deck.
I can't just let you go alone, you know.
Yeah,
Ah, jeez.
we're safer together. The elevator stopped and the door slid open. They tentatively stepped out and looked around.
It looks normal.
Okay, so, what would be on the lower decks? Storage? Perhaps? No fish going about their fishy business or jellyfish floating lazily through the water. There was, however, a blowfish, or at least something that looked very much like one. June's cheeks were puffed out and her mouth a tiny, intense frown.
Oh, knock it off. It's just like I thought. This part hasn't flooded. Come on, just look around. There's no water here.
June looked around nervously, then exhaled.
You're right. It's not flooded at all.
Yeah, so let's explore.
See?
But there's a whole lot of water.
Yeah, right on top of us.
What's gonna happen if the ceiling breaks?
Oh, come on, we'll die. That's what will happen. Junpei thought about that for a moment.
We'd probably die.
Yeah.
Oh no. Don't be so casual about something like that.
But we've got bombs in our stomach. Let's go.
At any rate, we should probably go back as soon as we can, once we're done looking around down here. Lotus and Santa might already be back.
Okay, good idea.
Yeah, those two geniuses.
Now then.
Junpei glanced around the room they'd found themselves in. The sensible thing here, on second thought, would just be to grab her, shove her in the elevator, and send it back up. Oh, she'd just come back down, wouldn't she? It's a terrible idea. The first thing you noticed was a set of thick iron bars. They ran the length of the room, separating the left elevator from the right one. I mean, you could climb over that.
Iron bars. Well, we can't go over there.
You can. There's a huge gap at the top. Like perfect, like limb-sized, like bars to climb on.
Right.
Then maybe...
There was a gap at the top, right? In the corner of the room that housed the elevators, Junpei found an opening.
Well,
He walked up to it and stuck his head around the corner.
it looks like there's a long straight hallway down this way.
Ooh.
something's written on the door at the end.
Oh,
Wait, is that...
yeah.
Let's check.
Junpei and June set off down the hallway at a brisk clip. Brisk clip? The hell does that mean? Is that an American thing? Somewhere between a run and a jog. Don't tell it's a giant number 6. Before long they found themselves in front of the door. On it was a number written in bright red paint.
I knew it!
This is a numbered door.
And indeed, there was a red bolted to the wall right next to the door.
But we can't do anything with only the two of us.
Yes.
We better head back
yes.
and let everyone know.
Yep.
Yes.
Junpei and June turned and headed back to C-Deck.
Wait, what's this?
On their way back, Junpei noticed a map on the wall.
Is this the map for E-Deck?
Nice.
I should take it with me.
Let's look at it. Bah!
Huh, so you guys found door 1.
They'd met back up with Santa and Lotus, who had explained what they'd found. Apparently there was another numbered door on A-Deck, just like the one on E-Deck. Beyond the door that the Earth key opens. According to Santa and Lotus, there was a number 1 on the door.
So now we've located 2 new doors. The 6 door and the 1 door.
Are they going to suggest that we go through one of them before the others get back? What number are these guys again? 7 and... No, 8. 8 and 3. 8 and 3. So Lotus literally cannot go through door number 1 because there's just no way that would work. Because the only way to get number 1 is with a 10, right? Or no, well, or with 100, I suppose. No, not necessarily. 55, 28 would get you there. 19. So 8. Why don't I use the calculator? Right, so Lotus, Junpei, and June could go through door number 1, so I've thought it through.
You know, it is interesting that E-Deck wasn't flooded.
Oh no, do we have to go through the basic concept of engineering a giant ship? Lotus was quiet for a moment, lost in thought.
Well, we don't really know if all of E-Deck is safe. We only checked the area around the elevator.
Now, there's a numbered door there, so it's going to be not flooded, right?
Even so, it's still very interesting.
You said the 6th door was there, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then that means Zero planned all this out, even the sinking.
This guy! It means he planned all it out. It wasn't just a random Friday night that he had a few too many drinks and decided to abduct 9 people, steal the sister ship of the Titanic, and build elaborate puzzles. It's as if he planned it all out, guys.
That would have meant some pretty serious remodeling of the ship's interior.
It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
Oh no.
Yeah. I wonder how long it took. I can't even imagine how much it must have cost.
Why do you all care about this? This. Oh.
It would have been a ton, that's for sure.
Well, that does go along with what Ace was saying. The most reasonable explanation would be that this was done by some organization with access to a whole lot of cash.
Yes, it does make sense.
That thought made them all go quiet for a moment. June bit her lip while Lotus sighed softly to herself, and Santa cracked a stiff neck and stared off into the distance at nothing.
Yeah?
I don't think it's a very good idea to stay here.
June looked up at Junpei with large, pleading eyes.
Yeah, you're right. Ace and his team might be back already.
Well, Junpei and I should be able to open door 1.
Huh? You guys leaving me behind?
Now he's got cold arms.
Just kidding. All right, let's go.
Lotus's words were all the impetus they needed. Back to the large hospital room they went. The moment they stepped inside, a tremendous voice echoed across the room.
Hey! Where the hell did you guys go?
7?
Ace was right behind him and Clover behind Ace, although she seemed to be hanging back. So they haven't found Snake.
What's wrong?
It looked as though there was something strange about them. 7 had the look of a man who'd seen a ghost. Ace was just as pale, and Clover looked as though she was only moments from passing out entirely. For a long moment they simply stood there, looking at one another. Junpei looked around nervously, waiting for someone else to speak. No one did. He looked at 7.
What happened?
What the hell kind of question is that?
7 was trying very hard to be angry, but something had shaken him hard. His shoulders were trembling and his voice was strained.
Snake is...
Oh. 7 couldn't finish. He just looked away, his face twisted. By Junpei wasn't sure what. Instead, Ace spoke. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and spoke.
Snake is... dead. He died, just as the 9th man did.
Oh. It was as if all the air had suddenly been sucked out of the room. How come we didn't hear it then? Junpei felt his heartbeat quicken, and he realized he was having trouble breathing. He could feel cold sweat beading on his forehead and neck. June, Santa, and Lotus looked the way he felt. All three were frozen in place, their faces white.
Oh my god, that's not true, is it?
We should make sure.
Yeah, right. We should.
They nodded to one another and headed for the number 3 door.
Wait! Not that way!
What? Why not?
They stopped short and turned to look at 7. He was pointing at the door with no number.
I stuck a screwdriver in there to keep the door from closing all the way. It's not locked, so you can go in that way.
Where is he?
The shower room. The left side of the hallway. I put a broom in there too to keep the door open.
That means we can get in without going through the numbered door, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Then let's go.
Zero's not going to like that. Their new destination clear, Junpei and his companions headed for the door with no number. Once in the hallway, it was easy to spot the metal door on the left wall.
This wasn't open when we passed here before.
But now, just as 7 had said, there was a broom stuck between the door and the frame, keeping it open.
Well, let's keep going.
They looked at it for a moment, then stepped inside. Why would...
Oh, it smells horrible.
Why do they want to see for themselves? I find that a bit strange. Lotus wrinkled her nose and covered her mouth in disgust. Even Santa pinched his nose shut.
Ugh, yeah, this is pretty awful. I feel like I'm gonna puke.
Just pretty awful. It was just as bad as they said, perhaps worse. A hideous smell filled the air so thick they could almost taste it. It was sour and smelled of fish, feces, and burnt meat. It worked its way through Junpei's nose and down his throat to pound against the entrance to his stomach.
Ooh.
Put his hands over his mouth and struggled to keep what little was in his stomach where it belonged.
Oh, Where is he? Where's Snake?
LLR? LLR. They didn't have to wonder where the body was.
There.
There was blood everywhere, a few arms of the splatter reaching toward them as they walked through the door. All one had to do was follow the many radial arms to their source. The body itself was hidden behind a divider.
June, you should stay here.
But
Please, just do me a favor, okay? All right?
He didn't give her a chance to say no. He put his hand on her shoulder, as if to shove her into the ground like a tent pole, turned and walked toward the end of the divider. Now, one thing to consider here is the possibility that this is all staged and no one has actually died. I know it's very unlikely, but considering the scope of this whole game, it's possible that people have been, you know, that there is an elaborate mannequin, right? Around the side here.
I'm going in.
Felt like it took an eternity for him to get there. Santa and Lotus followed, timid and nervous as a pair of children. Eventually, they reached the divider. They looked at one another and nodded slowly. Junpei put his hand on the divider and peered around the corner. For a moment, he forgot to breathe. He felt his heart collapse in his chest like an empty cigarette carton, and time froze. He knew in that instance that he would take the image before him to the grave. What was left of the body sat in a sea of blood. Chunks of flesh torn from the body sat in the blood-like tiny islands in a great red sea. A vast, ragged hole had been torn in the torso, and what remained of his intestines spilled out of it like fresh spaghetti. Smaller chunks of meat had splattered against the wall and become stuck there as they dried. Globules of yellowish fat had left trails like tiny slugs as gravity pulled them down the wall, even as they dried to it.
Just like Ace said.
Santa's voice was strained. Junpei suspected he was holding down some vomit of his own.
Just like the ninth man. The detonator in his bracelet set off the bomb in his gut.
Looked as though the explosion had been quite powerful.
Oh god. The bone is coming out of his left arm.
It's definitely an open fracture.
His legs were both bent in an odd, unnatural way, and his left arm had split open, exposing a painfully white bone. The painfully white bone of his ulna? His bracelet lay next to him. It seemed to have hit the wall hard enough to have shattered the display, which lay on the ground in pieces.
Oh, the face. It's horrible.
Yeah, you can't even tell who it is.
Half of his head had simply collapsed. Right. Really? The blood coating almost made it look like a raw pizza dough covered in tomato sauce. His clothes too were covered in blood. The burgundy tie, the white shirt, the jacket with the yellow piping, and the grey slacks.
But the clothes are...
They were all familiar to Junpei.
No mistake about it. It's Snake.
Lotus's voice was unnaturally deep and strained, and Junpei heard it catch in her throat. The squeal of tortured metal made Junpei's teeth curl. It sounded like the noise a ghost would make. No matter how many times he heard it, he never got used to it. Every time, it put him on edge. It didn't help that there was a girl nearby who looked far more like a ghost than a living human should. It was Clover. Sat on the edge of the bed, her head drooping listlessly onto her chest. Her eyes were blank and stared across the room at nothing. Her breathing was slow and mechanical. Aside from the rise and fall of her chest, she didn't move. Junpei felt as if a nudge might cause her to shatter into 1,000 pieces.
Snake was probably murdered. Chances are he was killed the same way the ninth man was.
Like, I'm guessing that means he was maybe encouraged to do something that sounded like it by Zero, right? To maybe to do something that perhaps bent the rules. Because we know that the ninth man, before he died, was shouting about how he was lied to. But he said, yeah. Seven lowered his voice, likely in an effort to keep Clover from hearing what he had to say. There were 4 other people in the room with Junpei and Seven. Ace, Santa, June, and Lotus. Seven looked at each one of them in turn and continued.
It's pretty straightforward. Not that hard to figure out how they did it. First, the killers got Snake to authenticate on the red to open door 3. Then they shoved him into it. Alone.
So he was Snake, so Snake was 2. So that means they're gonna oh wait, door number 3. So he's suggesting that it's a certain group of us that did this to him. And it has to be two people. Right, so Snake's number 2. So it was door number 3. So we need to get to 12. So we need another 10. So 6 and 4. So it's not going to be Clover, is it? So Clover and June, that's a very unlikely combination. So it's never going to be them. 7 and Santa, right? Could be them. It can't be Lotus. Because that would... Well, no, it could. It could. It could. Because it could be more than 3 people. It's 10. But we can't have another 2, but... If we got to 21. So we're at 10. We need another 11. So that rules out Santa for this combination. No, not necessarily. It's between 3 and 5 people, so... Junpei didn't do it, so let's not have the number 5 involved. And Clover's not going to have done it. I don't know, let's just hear them out. Sorry.
And waited 9 seconds for the door to shut. Once that door shut, it was all over for Snake. But he didn't give up. He probably knew it wouldn't do him any good, but he probably ran into the shower room looking for the dead. It was a small chance, but it wasn't like he had anything to lose. Unfortunately, it didn't work. The detonator is only deactivated if everybody who authenticated when they went in uses the dead. Snake was the only one who went through the door. And then, 81 seconds after he was shoved in, that happened.
I see. So that's what you meant by killers, huh? You need at least 3 people to open one of the numbered doors, including Snake. It wouldn't open for Snake and a single killer.
Yeah. That means we're looking at multiple perps here.
Junpei crossed his arms and grunted.
Well, just in case, I want to make sure. Let's say you're right. When do you think Snake was killed?
When we all split up to look for the parts for the Reds, I think.
Well, yeah.
Right after that was when we noticed he was gone.
Then that means none of us have alibis. We were all off searching the rooms we'd been assigned, looking for those parts.
Yeah. That means anybody could be a killer.
Wait a minute. What are you talking about?
June seemed shocked.
How can you say that so casually? You're implying that one of us is a killer.
I don't think he's implying, he's stating.
Well, not just one of us. If I'm right, then at least 2 of us are murderers.
Why don't you calm down a bit, Seven?
It could be him, he might be trying to get out in front of it here. Make himself look less suspicious.
What are you going to gain by being so suspicious? That's what Zero wants, you know?
True.
What Zero wants?
Exactly. This game was set up by Zero, wasn't it? Any game has a winner and loser. Whoever makes it through door 9 is a winner, and those who don't are the losers. Zero is trying to make us fight against one another for that victory.
Then you're saying that Zero is trying to split us up by making us fight each other?
Yes. That is why we can't let ourselves fall prey to suspicion. We have to trust one another and form a strong bond of friendship.
See, everything that anyone says makes them look suspicious, right? He's trying to... Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll end up ensnared by Zero's manipulations.
Then does that mean that the person who killed Snake...
Yes. Almost certainly Zero himself. If there's anyone we should doubt, it should be Zero. He masterminded this game and kidnapped all of us.
The interesting thing here is that Ace voluntarily drugged himself to avoid going through doors 7 and 8 and potentially finding Snake's body.
Doesn't it seem reasonable that he would have killed Snake as well?
Oh yeah.
Good question.
Junpei hadn't really considered that.
If Zero killed Snake, then Zero is on the ship with us.
Junpei. Was Zero still on the ship with them? Well, it could be that Zero is playing the game alongside us, because 0 is a number, and 0 could come through any of the doors as long as there were all 4 people, not 5 people going through. Right? He could scan himself and come in as well. It's just his number would never contribute to the total. He could just go along. I don't think we can be sure. He wasn't sure.
Something's still strange.
What was that?
Well, I'm just wondering about one thing.
And what's that?
How can you be so sure that Zero's on this ship?
There's been no trace. Like, I'm not saying you can't believe he's on the ship, but we've not seen any evidence that he's on the ship.
Really, Junpei? I confess I'm a little disappointed. Usually you're rather sharp. Isn't it obvious?
Wait, it is?
This ship.
Huh?
Zero said, "this ship," several times when he addressed us.
Okay. Is that going to affect Ace's opinion of us? Oh, yeah. Fair enough.
If he weren't here, he wouldn't say "this ship," would he?
Well, do you really want to base this whole assumption on a bit of grammar?
He'd be saying something like, "that ship," or "the ship."
Well, fair enough. Let's roll with it.
Oh, yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Ace's explanation made perfect sense. Junpei felt a little foolish. He hadn't seen it himself. Yeah, but Ace could be deflecting here. He could be the one who shoved Snake through the door. Still, he was left with a question, and it was one of no small importance.
If Zero's on the ship, where is he?
Suddenly, everyone went very quiet. The silence was cold and clammy, and Junpei could feel it crawling across his back and across his throat. Again, he heard the ghosting, moaning noise. And moments later, a person who looked more ghost than human appeared. It was Clover. She looked at the floor as she spoke, and her voice was a cold monotone.
I think Zero is one of us.
Yeah. Yeah. Definite possibility, man. Every human body in the room froze. The only sound was the muffled rustling of breath. Eyes darted from face to face. One of those faces was the face of their jailer. But who? Was he one of them? Yeah, it's definitely possible, yeah.
Well, that's possible.
Huh?
Like Clover said, Zero might be one of us.
Yeah.
What are you saying, Jumpy?
What do you mean I'm saying exactly what I just said?
Didn't you hear what Ace said?
Exactly. I said we shouldn't suspect one another for no reason.
No reason. I've got a great reason.
And what's that?
The bracelets.
He held out his left arm.
Why are the bombs in our bodies connected to the bracelets? You're all thinking Zero's hiding somewhere watching us, right? If he's doing that, then he could just detonate the bombs by remote control if someone did something they weren't supposed to. It would be a lot more precise and a lot easier. But if that's the case, then why is the bomb set off by the detonator in the bracelet?
Huh. You got a point.
I'm not done. Try applying the same ideas to the Nonary game. All of the puzzles here run all by themselves. In other words, Zero doesn't have to be controlling them for the game to move forward. Why's that? Why would Zero bother to do something like that?
Junpei let the question hang in the air and looked at the others. It was Santa who answered. Lotus is suspiciously quiet.
So let's say you and Clover are right. Zero's one of us. If that's the case, then it'd be really hard for him to keep track of all of us or control anything remotely. That's why all the puzzles run by themselves. That's what you're getting at, right?
Yeah.
Junpei nodded.
7, when we were talking earlier, you said any one of us could be Snake's killer, right?
Yeah, something like that.
All right, then. I've got a question for you, Ace. You said something like Zero must be the one who killed Snake, right?
Yeah.
Yes, something like that. I can't think of any other explanation.
So what do we get if we combine those? They fit together pretty well, I think. Something like this. Whoever killed Snake is Zero. Hence, Zero is one of us. 7 and Ace's theories aren't mutually exclusive. They actually complement each other pretty well. At least they do if Zero is one of us.
No one spoke. Their faces were grim, but Junpei wasn't sure if they believed him or not. Finally, Lotus spoke up.
What were his motives?
His motives?
Yes, isn't that pretty important?
No!
Why would Zero want to hide as one of us?
Alright, yeah, fine.
Oh, well, that's because...
Maybe we're Zero. Junpei chokes. That'd be a cool twist. He hadn't thought of that. And he had, to be honest with himself, he had no idea.
I don't know.
Lotus sighed.
Well, so much for making a persuasive argument, Junpei.
Yeah, well, I guess we need to find connections between ourselves. So we need to reveal more of our personal information to glean who he might be, if it is some sort of personal revenge thing or something of that nature, which has been suggested by the other characters.
In other words, you only had circumstantial evidence.
I don't really think that's enough to go on, you know?
Junpei was painfully aware of their eyes on him and their disapproval. He tried to find something else, anything else to look at. Then, in that horrible silence... 5 hours remaining. They heard a bell. They heard a bell begin to ring. It was the clock at their central staircase.
It's 3 in the morning.
That means we have 3 hours left.
3?
Then we need to move now. 7, Clover, Junpei, I know how you feel, but you do understand that right now it's important we trust one another, don't you?
Yeah, alright, Zero.
You're right, but...
Junpei couldn't bring himself to respond. He swallowed the words he wanted to say and sighed. 7 and Clover remained similarly silent. Their eyes were looking at something somewhere else, very far away.
We must go. We have very little time left.
Ace's words put their feet to moving. They all knew where they were going.
Our next destination is Mercury.
But maybe you and June should check it out first and then report back to us.
What?
All right, let's go, June.
Right. Here it is.
It sat bolted to the wall near the stairs that led to the casino and the kitchen between the 2 elevators.
The Mercury card reader.
We're using the card 7 gave us, right?
Alright guys, yeah, I'm just... hang on. Hold on. I don't know who to suspect, if anybody. I suppose maybe we have to suspect Clover a little bit. Because if, you know, Snake was blind, I mean, what if Clover is just impersonating his sister? I know that seems a little far-fetched, but I'm just thinking random theories here. Right? So she could have been involved. June is someone who it feels obvious for me to be suspicious of because she's, you know, like buddied up with us so much. I guess we have to be suspicious of ourselves, of Junpei. And the fact that we were the ones who were found last by the group. We might be Zero. Not sure. But, yeah. Shame about Snake. I don't know who you'd suspect. Ace injecting himself with that thing and not coming through the doors is definitely suspicious. Lotus would seem like the obvious person to be suspicious of, just because the weird outfit and being quite cold and everything, but maybe she's a red herring. The good thing is there's no evil bald guy to give himself away, which is what I'm expecting. Like Zero just lifts his helmet off, evil bald guy just right there. Anyway, I guess we'll head through the Jupiter door next time. So, hope you enjoyed this one. Just remember, everyone, never trust an on-crate. I'll see you next time.